Well, I always tell people Arizona is an incredible state. The city of Tempe is the eighth largest city in the state of Arizona. We are living in the fastest growing county in the country, which is Maricopa County. And actually, in the city of Tempe, we are estimated to get an additional 70,000 plus people by the year 2050. So housing is a very critical issue for us, both in terms of increasing affordability as well as housing supply to accommodate not only the people that live here currently, but the people who are going to be moving here over the next 10 to 20 years. And of course, as we talked about before, we are the home to the largest public university in the country, Arizona State University, which is also the most innovative university in the country, 9 years in running.
So Vice President Harris has talked about a plan to lower housing costs, and you bring that up as a huge issue for folks in your community. Paint a picture of what that has looked like and how that challenge has evolved over the last 3 to 5 years.
Well, it's exceptionally challenging. The reality is that Arizona used to be one of the best kept secrets. You talked a lot in the opener about the weather and how beautiful it is, 330 days of sunshine each and every year. Well, the challenge, of course, is now the secret's out. People realize the city of Tempe, the state of Arizona, are incredible places to live. And so you have more and more people coming here every day. You have existing businesses who are expanding their current operations and hiring more people. You have other businesses and companies that are moving here from other states and bringing with them more people. And so we have a housing supply shortage, and we have to find a way to create additional housing, frankly, home ownership, rental opportunities in the city of Tempe, in the county of Maricopa, and across our great state. And that lack of housing has created, frankly, a spike in housing prices. So we have to address, as I tell people, both issues. We have to find ways to address housing affordability to make sure that people can have affordable housing, whether it's affordable workforce or market rate home ownership or rental opportunities. But we also have to find ways to increase supply. And I know that Vice President Harris has a plan to do that. She's talked about we need to find ways to build additional housing to bring down the cost of housing across our country. She's talked about providing first-time home buyers with a $25,000 down payment assistance to make the dream of home ownership within reach for people. And so, frankly, she's the candidate who I know is going to address this issue in a very proactive and forward-thinking fashion. And that's exactly why I'm supporting her to be our next president.
One of the critics, though, Mr. Mayor, of that plan is if you increase, and give people a credit of $15,000, $25,000, then it's just going to drive up costs even more. Is Tempe prepared for that?
I don't believe that it's going to have that impact at all. I think what it's going to do is open up home ownership to many people who thought that they would never have the opportunity to own a home. I know many young people in their 20s and 30s who had frankly just given up on the dream of home ownership altogether and are very encouraged by the vice president's plan about increasing housing supply, about $25,000 in first-time home buyers assistance. I mean, quite honestly, I think that it's going to have a huge impact in giving people the funds necessary to get back into the housing market. The increased supply will help to stabilize and lower costs because there will be options for home buyers and there will be options for renters in our communities. And I think that that's going to open up that dream of home ownership that a lot of Americans, especially young people, had long considered closed. I think they're very excited about the vice president's plan, and I know I am myself.
I know you watched the debate. So did I and many others, millions of other Americans. CBS News, Mr. Mayor, has invited both of the presidential candidates to a debate in October at Arizona State, so in your community. Are you hearing anything, any insight into the possibility of this happening, even though Trump says he doesn't want another debate?
Well, you clearly heard the vice president say after the first debate, she welcomes a second debate. She said it immediately the next day because she believes that the American people deserve to hear from both presidential candidates, to hear about their positions on very important policies that are critical to this country's future. And so we would be more than happy to welcome that next presidential debate in our community to make sure that our residents have an opportunity to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris and from former President Donald Trump. But the fact of the matter is, at this point, you only have one candidate that's actually agreeing to that next exchange of ideas in the open public. Unfortunately, former President Trump, after the first meeting, made a decision that he wasn't going to have another debate. And I frankly think that that is a mistake on his part. But I do believe That's because Vice President Harris so thoroughly and convincingly dominated in that debate.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.